Okay. Hello, everyone. So, so it's getting pretty cold here in Etobicoke, Canada, and I guess I'm giving another episode, coffee shop Wi-Fi episode. Humanity is the angel of the future. And I wanted to, this might be part one, a short episode, but I wanted to speak about an emotional freedom response to what the world has to be. The privilege that human intelligence has, and if we look at the properties of how reality happens, it seems that we are this 4.5 billion year old coordinated genetical programs movement on the surface of this planet. You know, we think we are born as free individuals. But in actuality, we are born in a system that has its agendas. It's as if there is an agenda to the world before we were born. And before there were human beings, there was a dehumanized agenda. You know what it is? Imagine a sculptor takes a chunk of rock, and imagine, just like Michelangelo says, I saw the angel in the stone and I set it free. Imagine a sculptor on a cosmic level, on a universal level. We have this sculptor, and this sculptor starts to sculpt an angel in the stone, and once it gets the head of the angel sculpted, then suddenly, right, the stone becomes conscious. What I'm trying to say is that before human beings were born, there is a macrocosmic event happening. Human beings are born as the microcosmic event, in some sense. So what I'm trying to say is that we think we're free individuals, but we realize that we have awakened on a giant's back, on a giant's shoulder. This world is or I should say, the purpose of the human mind is to get acquainted with intelligence and ultimately to become responsible for the intelligence that it is. Most creatures on this planet, usually physical, they tend to have a conditional relationship with reality, and what that means is most people are looking for power outside themselves. Even the survival of us as creatures has been a dependency on power outside of us. What really the human experience seems to be, it seems to be this geometrical event that was happening, and we have become conscious of a part of this geometrical event. And now that when it comes to truth, it has to do with what the human being, what the attention is willing to let go to see. I'm pretty much saying humanity is the angel of the future. I am noticing how human beings enter the system, they interact in the system, they survive in the system, but at some point during their temporary journey through the lifetime, the intelligence of the being will wonder, okay, now that I am being, what is the meaning of being? And for people who do not have any sort of experience of their own unconditional unknown nature, think of it this way: 8 billion creatures pop on a rock in the middle of nowhere. Okay, these creatures have a responsibility in the preservance. What I'm trying to say is, like, there's this great war. This might be an easier metaphor. There's this imagined great war happening, and we are soldiers. Or imagine the cosmos was the cosmic intelligence was this construction company, and this construction company, imagine Transcendental Construction Company, was given the project of creating worlds and civilizations and planets and whatnot. Okay? So what I'm trying to share here, really, the idea is that there is something happening before we were happening to define everything that is happening based on just how we are happening. If there's anybody listening, write something in the comment section. Anyways, where am I going with this? You see, I'm looking at the destination of this talk pretty much in my vision. I have wondered about the nature of intelligence. I have wondered about what sort of systematic relationship is there for what sort of systematic view is there to intelligence, and I have realized that the systems of intelligence that we have divide into two versions, right? So what that means is when a creature awakens in reality, it is attention to a moment. What it finds within its moment is geometry, and the difference between reality and imagination for a mind, not for a body. For a mind, reality is free imagination. For a mind, how would I say it? What I'm trying to say is that when our eyes open, the brain doesn't have to do anything extra. The world already has shape. The brain doesn't have to put the shape there, even though it does. What seems to be going on with human intelligence is that these creatures that were just the intelligence was moving on an existential level. Or think of it this way: that nature has developed a biological system, but this biological system, for some reason, as a strategy or an intervening factor, has become conscious of its biological system. And it's another way of saying nature is trying to create an invisible self through human intelligence. What that means is, it's like there's two views to reality. Most children are indoctrinated and conditioned in thinking that reality is static, right? That means when a young kid says, why is the sun in the sky, like the parent gives one answer and the child is satisfied. But when we realize that there's a dynamism to reality this whole time, in all, whoever you are listening to me, in all the ways you have existed, there has been a dynamic self and there has been a static self. The static self is the silence of the presence of the whole world, which is being alive. So what I'm trying to say say is that we're not just an individual organism inside a collective setting where there's a potential to be a collective organism, but we're actually an individual dynamic entity. And this individual dynamic entity, or how should I say it? I should say it differently. There's different modes to the human brain. One of the modes of the human brain is pure individualism. The brain acts like God and is satisfied with its godly action. What does this mean? This means the solipsist's fantasy. It means that this whole time we have been living in a world that we did not create. What has been living in the world is what we create. So it's like the brain is using the world to create a self to then redefine the world. That is what is going on with human intelligence. Human intelligence is human because it has an ignorance of how the instantaneous experiential dimensions to its being cannot be worded. Right now we are creatures, all of us are possessed by language. There isn't an individual on this planet who they may say they're not possessed by language, but if we look at the behavior of whatever sort of intelligence we are, human beings have been playing with objects, and the moment they have gotten tired of playing with objects, they have gone to playing with subjects. Now we have reached a point where our species is getting closer to the language threshold, but the true language advancement beyond the language threshold is 3,600 years from now. So what do I mean by this? I mean, we're living at that point in history where an object has just noticed it's an individual subject. We're going to realize we are a collective subject. That collective subject is the honor of the human species. What we as a species, evolving species in the void, can expect in the next couple thousand years is that the species will come to terms with what it actually is and what it isn't. Nice. We have comments. You know, guys, I realized that a part of why I started giving these Mr.Within talks was simply because I cannot ignore the greatness of the future that we're all indirectly living for. You know, I was at this house party years ago, you know, long story short, somebody was using a key to, you know, measure powder. I remember in that house party there was an individual So how would I say it? Imagine you've gone into this random house party, not random, a friend of yours has taken you to this house party. In that house party, there's an individual who expresses that they hate human beings and they hate humanity. I experienced that. I've experienced somebody in front of me hating humanity. At least in that moment. And I remember a part of me felt like if the human being doesn't have hope or doesn't trust its future, it is non-existent. The issue with the human mind is that it has opened up a completely different destination for the intelligence of the organism we are. When I say humanity is the angel of the future, there is something very important in this idea, that the concept of an angel is a creature that doesn't have free will. And people are going to be like, Mr.Within, what do you mean an angel doesn't have free will? An angel is the divine will. So what it means that humanity is the angel of the future, this could be a double-edged sentence suggesting that human beings, as they trust the collective presence and eventhood and animations of their world, they will end up, it's like, think of it as an advanced human being, and this human being is so advanced that it trusts the advanced system it is in. Right? So what's going to happen is, right now we need analysis. We need the frontal lobe, to, in some sense, process, articulate, calculate, impose value into moments, and then calculate. Right now we are still solving the problem to solve it. In the future, they are not going to be individuals in the sense that we are. I don't know how I know this, but I know that there is ways that attention can move that is not limited to shape. Right now, human beings are under the impression we are shaped creatures because we're like, yo, look at my sexy body. So we're these physical creatures. But when it comes to the nature of the human mind, it's as if we're living multiple lives. What the individual human being is a multidimensional event. Now, I want you to imagine that humanity is the angel of the future in the sense that it has discovered its inseparability with the cosmic activity. When I was younger, I thought there was a sort of morality to the karma of destiny, right? That means I'm like, okay, did something happen because it was good, it was bad? Then I realized, no. It's not because of man's calculated or considered good or evil that stuff is happening. Stuff is happening because there is a geometrical karmic value to manifestation, Like right now, I am outside a Starbucks. I'm looking at this fence of like the block of the parking lot, and I can say, yo, this fence is here because of me, because for me to look at something, or I could realize that the fence has a completely different karmic geometrical imprint. That means human beings, the biggest error we commit is that we think reality happens because we are happening only. This is true, but in the inner realms. In the outer realms, it's like we're inside another being's mind. But when a person closes their eyes, you're inside your own mind. Right? This is the intervening factors of the outer realm. By the way, good morning, everyone, and feel free to, comment on the future, So anyways, ultimately, I am a person who got bored of individual existence. Yeah. Even though what I'm trying to say. All right, let me change the song here. Can you imagine if I start playing Mozart right now? Just Mr.Within featuring Mozart. Anyways, back to this. So an emotional response to what the world has to be. An emotional freedom response to what the world has to be. Every human being is born, they look at the world, it means something to them. It's like you look at a film and then you have an impression. That impression becomes the story of your life, and then the story of your life has room to adjust and change and shift. We think that we are individuals, but we are living in a collective system. But we think we're individuals, but we're living in a collective system. There was this show, there was this girl in the show called Wednesday, and there's a scene where somebody comes and says, don't you cry, and she's like, when I realized crying doesn't help, I decided not to cry. And that's the situation when it comes to human life, that there's all this all these systems, and some of these systems are doing fucked up stuff and some of them are not. But it's as if after some point the meaning of life is found in what we live for. And most human beings are living for human beings, all the parents raising children, a very honorable task. But at the same time, right now there's free will moving us. What I'm trying to say is in the future the species may reach a sort of collective awareness where to be an individual doesn't make sense. Right now in this phase of history, individualism makes sense. In the future, based on how fast information moves, there can come the shape-shifting humanity, the sleepless humanity, you know, the cyber humanity. There's so many ways that reality can contain its shape. We are energetic containers. What I find the free will is like it's like when the person wakes up in the morning, they're just like, again, the Michelangelo stone metaphor. Just like there's a chunk of stone for somebody to sculpt, when we wake up in the morning, we're this chunk of energy, and we're like this non-physical, or let's say we're this energy, and our free will sculpts our energy throughout the day, and then when we sleep we actually log out of reality. There was a time I thought that if a person doesn't sleep for a couple days, it's gonna have like transcendental consequences, right? Not just physical consequences, but in the sense that, like, imagine there's a balance to reality. And just like video games, a person shouldn't play too much video games. Similarly, we look at an individual, we look at a multidimensional being, and we're like, for how long does it need to be in this dimension, right? Because the nature of our attention seems to be, it's like our intelligence is functioning through more than 3 states, but our waking consciousness is one of those states. Humanity is the angel of the future because there's nothing else in the world that's caring for the future. We are like not just the only species that cares for the future of the planet, but we're the only species in the observable universe that can care for the future. The purpose of the human mind, I am convinced, the purpose of human intelligence is to be the future. The purpose of the body is try to be the past. Do you see? It's like the more physical entities we are, the more the experience is from past to present. But the more non-physical entity or intelligence we are, you feel like there's a timeless collective future at the end of the road. And really, human beings think that the cosmos is going till the end of time. But the end of time doesn't exist because time is a circle. The straight line comes back to the end. It's this bizarre situation where who we were before we were born it is who we are, right after we in some sense transition, right? What I'm trying to say is that I'm this intelligent being in the moment, and I'm asking myself, okay, what type of intelligence, or what were you before you were born, and then what will you be after you were born? And I realized that non-existence doesn't have a consciousness to complain. And what does this mean? This means that the nature of human minds could be a transcendental energetic presence in the realm, and the nature of the human body is its surface. So it's as if we are the tip of an iceberg. This biological existence of mine, imagine I'm one tip of an iceberg and you're another tip of an iceberg here. Now, what we do in life is ultimately explore. I have asked myself, many days I've woken up and I'm like, what am I looking at? What am I? Why are my eyes, open to the world now? And you know what answer comes? The answer comes that you're here to be free. You're here to be yourself. But then the person's like, wait a minute, how can I be my freest, greatest self? This is what people are looking for on an individual level. They're looking for freedom and greatness. Everybody's looking for this. It's you can say the acceptable desire, to be free and to be great. And usually they're synonymous. Usually great people, they have internal freedoms that, they have psychological freedoms that others don't. When it comes to language and speech and articulation, I've noticed there's some greatness here. But when it comes to, for example, different dimensions where intelligence and reality moves, what it is we are 8 billion crew members of Spaceship Earth, and now the crew members need to put on the uniform. We need the advanced civilization, the advanced humanity. The angels of the future are the advanced communicators. What's missing in all dimensions of civilization is a multidimensional tolerance to look at the moment from different ways. A lot of people have stress, depression, anxiety. Why? Because they are convinced by their view. Even me talking right now, my talk is one angle, Like, I'm not kidding. Sometimes when I give these Mr. Within talks, I could probably give different talks on the same title. Do you know? But what I'm trying to say is that it's the advancement of communication. Human beings, it's like 8 billion people have showed up to the concert and they're like, where's the rock stars? And we're realizing, no way, these 8 billion people who showed up to the concert of existence are the rock stars. We are here to perform in front of our own eyes and the eyes of the world. And when we realize there is no difference, then we have surpassed humanized suffering. I don't know. There's been moments where I've felt like, okay, is nature revealing its secret movements to me? And then there's been moments where I'm like, what secret? The condition of human life is so bizarre and strange. Humanity is the angel of the future because human beings are the ones that are in the room of Earth to help the room. Right now, the greatest allies of all the unborn future generations is the living. And we have to choose a team. We have to choose a side. And people are going to be like, what do you mean, Mr. Within? What do you mean choose a side? And this is really it. That all human beings, pretty much psychologically, have 3 roads. Let's say 3 paths you can choose. You can choose to define the value of your moment based on the past. This is where there's heavy values usually come from the past. Then you can choose to define yourself based on the present. The present is a neutrality. People who can just be present have cultivated the ability to not be anything while being everything. That's pretty much, you can say, the traditional nirvana. You realize everything and nothing as being the simultaneous potential to any sort of individual activity. What I'm trying to say is that we think we're individuals, we realize we're collective events, we are the collective event of nature. And it took me 30 years to truly comprehend that my karma is the karma of the cosmos, a cosmic being. We are universal beings. We're acting like earthlings fighting over scraps, but what we are universal. There's a universalism behind the ignorance of individual cruelty. The greatest power is the most advanced system. How have we forgotten this? It is the advancement of all systems. It is the might of the command of the spirit of advancement in this universal sector. Imagine there was a, there's like from a religious context, it would be like there's Archangel Michael, the archetype of the protector, there's Archangel Gabriel, right? The archetype of, the messenger. And I feel there is, even though it's undiscussed and maybe unnecessary, but there is an archangel of advancement. There is it's like the human species is not in symbiosis with the cosmic inconceivable source truth, but in reality, we're not alone on Earth. And what's living on Earth simultaneously as individual physical creatures is fields of space. It's another way of saying there's collective spirits living among human beings. But when I say collective spirits, they're the space. So imagine imagine we have like the Empire State Building, or we have the CN Tower. Imagine like the first 100 meters of that tower is like one spirit, one space. Collective space. Imagine the next 100 meters, it's like all that space is a different being. We think that the individualism of the soul is the uniqueness of how the body animates, but in actuality, how the moment is even there to animate, it's kind of like truth was born before the simulation could doubt. Or truth was present before, a simulated entity could freak out. There's a lot of things that we know. I mean, intrinsically, every day that we go to sleep, we're saying goodbye to that day. There is a very beautiful, but at the same time sad, but still beautiful poetry to how the human psychology transitions between the conscious waking state, the dream state, the deep sleep state. It's kind of like performance and work. I would say the next couple 100 years on this planet is going to be one of the greatest working eras. People have to realize that we are not living for ourselves. We are living for our greatest self, which is the greatness of the species. Like, which one is more cooler? We act like our ancestors, we just, ignore the past and the future and just be kumbaya present, or we live for the might of the future. That's the point. We are angels of the future because we are protecting the future, because we are the future. Humanity is the angel of the future, which is another way of saying we are the cosmos' way of taking care of something the cosmos created. We are the children of the cosmos. We have not been born on Earth only. If in the future there's an interstellar passport, mine would probably say like, this kid's been born in the multiverse, I don't know. I just know that human beings, they roam this earth until they wonder what it is and what they are and what it can be. And I just realized that I have the opportunity to allow my brain to generate misery from the past, to move in past misery or potential future greatness. The future is for the mind extended. The body is not in time. Like the body changes and then we pinpoint time. Time is more a mental construct for a mental viewer. We are a physical viewer of our own mind, which simultaneously means we're a mental viewer of our physical body. What the world needs now is novelty. And Terence McKenna spoke about this. I have my own different versions, different views on this, but Terence McKenna in his lectures, he had brought up this idea that something, it's not just evolution is a force from nothing going towards everything, but in actuality, it's kind of like this species of ours became conscious, and the moment it had the capability to notice, to be able to discriminate, okay, I am this, I am not this, I am not this, I am that, like that sort of ability, then it was as if something from the future, Terence McKenna perceived it in this way, that something from the future is pulling evolution towards itself. Okay? Now, when I have thought about this, Terence McKenna termed it the transcendental object at the end of time. As if, like, I don't know, it could be a mysterious vacuum cleaner from the future pulling everything, the past to itself. I mean, whatever, right? But the way I see it is that it's like nature is trying to do something, and it's using human beings to do it, but the human being has noticed nature is using it, right? And so what has happened on this planet is that creatures were moving with the mind of nature. They separated from the mind, from the natural into an unnatural way of living, and then the moment they separated from the collective natural mind, they discovered an individual unnatural mind, and for the future generations, cyberspace, it's going to be a collective unnatural experience, right? And people are different, you know. Right now, somebody could be hearing me that feels like they're God right now, you know. Somebody could be hearing me that they think they're an angel, they think they're a devil. But really what we are is we are an opportunity of controlled manifestation. Because everything in nature is going forth. Everything is like nature is doing its thing. It's like mankind doesn't know what to do. Everything in the world, it's like forces don't have doubt, right? Like gravity doesn't doubt itself. You know, imagine somebody was falling from a building and the person was like, gravity, you know, do something. And gravity was like, oh my God, nobody's talked to me before. All right, I'll reduce the gravity for this individual falling from, you know, a building, you know. What I'm trying to say is forces are just one-dimensional expressions. The human being is conscious of its one-dimensional expression. It's not one-dimensional. We have a superior ability to recognize how we're able. Other species don't. You know, when I look at birds and squirrels, I'm like, look at these sleeping, you know, children. Look at these sleeping species. They don't know the immensity, the intensity that awaits them. And when I look at this, like when I look at a bird and I'm like, this bird doesn't know anything about human politics, you know, it's the same. That could there be a greater dimensional being looking at me and being like, this human being doesn't, you know, it's like a sleeping species, you know? All I know is that if everybody is behaving the same, who was it? Somebody had said this. It's like, let me see if I can find the quote. It was like this quote that said, if everybody's doing the same thing, nobody's thinking. Oh, here. It's by George Patton. He says, if everyone is thinking alike, then somebody isn't thinking. Right. So the same thing goes for a global context. You know, the greatest thing that can happen with especially ageism on this planet is that we have generations of people how would I say it? It's just complexity. Reality is becoming more complex. Complexity means dimensions are being pressured, right? So think of it as if there's a balloon, there's, you know, let's say the air particles in the balloon, and suddenly, you know, we increase the pressure, and, you know, the particles move faster. Imagine we heat up something like this spray can, and eventually it bursts, right? And so the particles are moving beyond their boundary, right? And to me, it seems like something increased the temperature of intelligence on this planet to the degree that the intelligence could have a spectrum of recognizing different ways reality is happening. Just like we have an alphabet, I feel that every human being's philosophy on life is based on an alphabet of immediate principal images, right? What I'm trying to say is that we all have a dictionary on what different events in reality has to mean, right? And the thing about knowledge is how much of your inner personal experience is aligned to the impersonal external existence. We as human beings don't have the task of just being mobile and active. We have the task of coordination. What the mind is that we can live ahead and then act in accordance to it. What is really going on with the human brain is that the brain, the human mind, is the actual future, is the life of the future. Our minds are living ahead. And as they live ahead, we get the experiential validity of something happening. That means somebody in their mind, they see themselves go to a cupboard, grab a cup of water, let's say put ice in it, and drink a cold glass of water. Okay, so that's something where the person saw the event take place in their mind, and the body was like, why not? And the person followed it up. So what I'm trying to say to everybody, it's like everybody who has a phone, you take out your phone, you use your phone, you put your phone away. Similarly, we have inner realms, and inner realms it's part of our natural settings, right? So what I'm trying to tell people is that every person has one lifetime to see how their DNA, like a unique antenna, is receiving what kind of signals. You know, me giving these talks, I'm like, okay, hunter-gatherer vibe. You know, back in the day, we were hunting buffalo, gathering berries. Now, what is the whole species? What are we doing? It's like the whole species, all human beings on the planet, are like this tribe of humanity, and every person that experiences something new. Pretty much, we're like bees, but with reality. We try to find new experiences and bring them back to the tribe. Really, what knowledge is, I think the proper view on knowledge is human headquarters. It's not truth. Knowledge is the human being's let's say prototype so far of how it has held reality. Because what you discover as that unknown witness within is that boundaries are set based on intent, energy and intent and attention, you know. And people can, you know, there was I'm functioning in a state of mind where I remember, like, at some point I noticed a lot of my desires just be dismissed. How would I say this? Imagine you're a person, you know, for a huge percentage of your life, you have complex desires, and you want to be this and do that and this and all of this, right? But it's like after some point, the moment when my inner understanding of how outer reality is present, when there was a readjustment there, when I realized I am watching my life, I am not just living it, and how that watcher is unknown, spirituality transformed from what people said to what is actually happening. You know, so many people on this planet looking for truth, but imagine truth is like a fountain, and it's like if you are thirsty, you go to the fountain and drink. And once you've drank from the fountain, it's like you're done, right? Right now, truth is honestly like juice for the mind. The mind is thirsty, and it's like, yo, new reality, new truth. You know, I'm telling you, just like our body consumes physical content, the mind consumes non-physical content. But the way the mind consumes non-physical content is that our minds are trying to extend the world. You know, for me, the day I knew I was a writer, I remember writing my first sentence that I felt it was truly just from me, right? That's when you know you're a writer. I think every writer remembers their first sentence that they knew they were a writer. Mine was, I remember I wrote it down and put got some tape and taped this printer paper to my wall with the quote. And I wrote, I don't want to live in a world that looks the same the next day. And I feel that is the nature of our minds. We did not evolve because we wanted to stay comfortable forever. We evolved because we wanted to see what else there is. And so it's this principle of the new surpassing the principle of the past. The best way human beings can somehow walk towards a more peaceful, efficient, advanced civilization is by treating all ideological systems as artwork. That means if somebody comes from that religion, let's say from, you know, a Muslim, a Christian, a Jew, a Buddhist, if they all come and talk, like, to me, it's not that it's like they all have separate truths or they all believe in the same truth. To me, these are different, they are different keys of the piano, right? It's as if right now, imagine 8 billion human beings. Imagine there was this piano with 8 billion keys, okay? 8 billion notes. And so every human being is just clicking on their own note and thinking they're the truth. But in reality, we have all come here to be part of the melody of causation. So what that means is the person thought they have to be a note being played all the time, and it's more and more to be alive as a human being in the great game of humanity, which is our ability as a species to combat inner extinction and outer extinction. Those are the biggest challenges of our species. Inner extinction, why? Because it's fragile. The human mind is fragile. We've built up this next level so far, like 2022, we have some ridiculous advantages of the information age that if human beings were more insane on the planet, it could all be lost. Like, we all have to take in, like, you know, people pray before supper. It's like we all have to take in a moment before where we're like, yo, human beings, have not acted unnecessarily insane. Do you know? The insanity of the human species is not just how bizarre the cosmological situation is, but at the same time, it's like, what do we do as energy? Right? Like, how incredible is it if we suddenly were like, yo, you know, that person who I think is my friend, that person who I think is my energy, my enemy, they're just energetic moments of the space-time continuum. You know, one of the biggest things a person can learn about life is to learn to walk with life. Right? That's something where I think, me personally as a soul, I'm learning a lot. Right? Because I'm a person who my mind likes to leap, likes to jump ahead. And to learn to walk with life means to honor the rhythm of not your own soul, but the spirit of the world. Right? So it's as if young souls are trying to be gods. Old souls are trying to be the conscious, efficient, I shouldn't say efficient, but they are the conscious divinity. Because why should there be anything in space? Could it be any easier? You know, could divinity be proven in any easier way? Anyways, humanity is the angel of the future, which is another way of saying it. You know, I don't know who's listening to this, who you are, what kind of person you are, you know. And who knows, one day maybe 8 billion people hear this talk. A part of me feels I might have indirectly created, you know, one of the biggest YouTube channels on the planet. But who knows? Ultimately, it's what happens to our attention. And it's every individual needs to learn to accept what they are. And once you can accept what you are, you can be honest. And once you can be honest, you get to experience your original karma. And when you experience your original karma, you access original truths. Because this whole time, there have been unacknowledged dimensions to how intelligence is its own presence. Like right now, I have, you know, like take it from somebody who's like, you know, who's talked a lot, okay? As someone who's talked a lot, so many times, midway through these talks, I've watched myself. You know, people think I'm just giving the talk. I can also watch myself give the talk. Do you know? It's the same, just like I can watch my hand move. You know, just like somebody's writing something down but thinking about something else. Similarly, you know, I can communicate with a recognition that there is something moving before me, which is the rhythm of the moment, the nature of the moment, and then there is my conscious acknowledgements of my inner realm. So what it is, it's like most people think that there's complete silence and then somebody begins to talk. But the value of, you know, infinite content is that reality is dynamic. It's dynamic. That's the big realization. This is the spirituality of the future generations. That they are not going to be individuals who move. They're going to be the movement of individualism. I would say that the energy that is being my voice in this moment, it's an energy that has noticed that it can impose any idea. What do I mean by this? I'm a person who has experienced moments where I have not been a person. And in those moments, the question comes, what archetype follows once the human archetype is lifted? And the answer is, it becomes an experiential ability. So right now, my attention is in this biological body in the conscious waking state, but in its natural state, it is a wind. It's an invisible wind. It's like, imagine this invisible wind moving through the cosmos, and the invisible wind is sight. It can notice itself, you know? One thing we can just see from existence is that existence wanted to be seen, right? That means there's so much geometry and beauty to the natural world that we're like, okay, this was made to be acknowledged, right? Like how ridiculous would it be if there were trees giving fruit and at the same time there were no creatures to eat that fruit? Like, that would be the most ridiculous thing. It's like, are trees insane? Are trees, Nature is so blessed, guys. You know, sometimes, you know, there's moments where I get upset and I just remember this, I don't know what it is, it's a beaver or a squirrel or something, YouTube meme. It's like this clip where this squirrel is shouting, Alan, Alan, Alan. You know, what is the world here for? An answer could be that the world is here for itself. It has nothing to do with the human experience. An answer could be that the world is here for the human beings. Similar, for example, that's a religious answer. Or it could be that there is no such thing as a world, and there is a network of multidimensional events beyond fathom happening. It's like we're a square and a dodecahedron's making decisions, you know, and we're like thinking we have power. What mankind can do is use the tactical advantage of civilized, polite communication with everything. You know, when I say an advanced communicator, I am envisioning beings in the future that are so advanced, they can communicate to anything. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's fictional, non-fiction, if it's an extraterrestrial in the future, if it's an android, if it's an interdimensional entity, you know. There is an angelic quality to how sight is how the universe is moving itself. And so, humanity is the angel of the future. And if we are alone, if whoever you are listening to me, if you're somebody who's alone, if you have experienced loneliness, know that even though human psychology in 2022 may be isolated and alone, but you are the only person the future generations have now. And so this should be a great source of honor. Like, imagine somebody doesn't know what to do and then they're like, wait a minute, there's a future coming. The future is coming. You know, imagine somebody going up to, you know, Ned Stark and being like, yo, winter is not coming. It's the future that's coming, you know? Ned Stark's gonna be like, who are you? I don't remember George R.R. Martin writing Mr.Within in Game of Thrones, so. You know, I should start this YouTube channel where I'm giving metaphysical reviews on TV shows. What can I say? Rise, mankind, rise. Human beings have to... What did I write here in the subtitle? An emotional freedom response to what the world has to be. So if we were to ask, let's say we got 10 people, right? And we ask these 10 people, what does the world have to be? Or what should the world be? You know? Imagine this was a mandatory assignment given to primary school kids. What do you think the world should be? And so this is where it gets interesting, because the world is something, and it is something dynamic and changing, but our minds are trying to extract our own world, our own known world from the unknown world. So really what it is there's an unknown world here till the end of time, or whatever kind of species arises, it's going to be unknown. And then the human brain is attempting to know this unknown world by pinpointing itself in the space-time continuum. And I think a reason human beings seek external gratification and attention is to know that they exist beyond themselves. Consciousness is a type of intelligence that is constantly, just like a neat freak, is trying to see if it's eternal. It's trying to see what else it is. We are eternity's remembrance through temporal means. We are the most advanced species on this planet, just like Uncle Ben said to Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Human species, the human mind, even this, let's say the lowest IQ, highest IQ human beings, we all have a superior intelligence that comes to other species. So first thing is this: the collective sense of honor should come. Whoever you are, if you're a human being, welcome to humanity. This is your honor. This is the honor and privilege of living, not among a species, but as a species. In the future, children in an advanced civilization may be like, it's like, parents, what are people doing? What's the point of civilization? And the answer is advancement in all dimensions. To me, this is one of the most beautiful sentences. Advancement in all dimensions. It's the greatest feeling. It's the feeling that we did not forget the past, and we established the new future. There's going to be philosophers. Right now the most important thing is, this is my vision as a strategist, I would inject philosophers in every field of knowledge. There has to be a philosopher. Imagine in the future, the educational system makes it mandatory for there to be a psychologist, a philosopher, and a scientist in every classroom. Or in the far future, an advanced communicator, which is all of them. What technology has done is it has accelerated the mind of the individual to polymathism. We're gonna just see the future generations we're gonna be like, the future generations are talented, but the future generations, they're gonna be children born on this planet that won't have to deal with any of our past problems to some degree, right? Because the point of being a human being is that the day you are born on this planet is the day manifestation has become part of your briefing. And we are existentially briefed before we experientially awaken into a position of choice. We must care for the future because, the future, all that the future, unborn children of the future have is us. We are their hope. Our greatness in the present is the indirect, unborn hope of the unborn future generations. It's incredible. Am I the only one feeling like, billions of unborn human beings kind of like watching this moment? Who knows? There could be such advanced cosmic beings that to look at a species on Earth is like flipping the page of a magazine, All I know is that the human being is an intelligence, that its being is collective, its human component is individual. We are looking for ability. We as a species are fascinated by ability. The epitome of individual ability is limited to how advanced the system is. So we are right now, think of it, 8 billion human beings who are trying to, each person's trying to advance and be the best person they can be. But the issue is, if somebody becomes victorious, it's like being a king of hell, right? Right now, individual success feels like that, right? That there's this whole planet where things can be happening efficiently if there was strategically efficient communication between parties, and it's not. Our species is smarter than self-destruction. It is smarter than a species civil war, but we don't act like it, right? So there is an immaturity to how advanced of beings we are and how we are acting. We are an immature species when it comes to an interstellar gathering. Sometimes, I think about, my own advanced self, and it goes beyond conception. I just think about what would the most advanced version of me be, and I realize the most advanced version of me is the most advanced state of the world. People can act like they don't care for their environments, but we're defined by them. And the value of honesty is staying true to how moments moved you. But the species right now is being, I declared it in 2020, that we've gone into the era of advanced communication, which is another way of saying everything the ancient world was like, yo, this is spirituality or magic. The future generations are going to be like, no, everything is an advanced state of what is happening to the brain in the moment. We are advanced communicators. What used to be spiritual people is advanced communicators. This is the whole Mr.Withinian thing, I was that person raised by, one of those children on earth who was introduced to spiritual ideology at an early on, so to see something beyond it is very natural for me. Because everybody wants to be what they are not. But if you realize you are, then you're already being, so there is no logic of desire. And something I feel personally is that anybody who these Mr. Within talks, I have this view that the talks find the people, right? These Mr. Within talks, each talk has a unique energy, and it's like, different people will get tuned to different talks. When a person realizes they don't know what the whole moment is, a person is left in a sort of isolation of being. And when a person has been left too long in an isolation of being, they become dehumanized. And when they become dehumanized, their care for the human sensitivity goes away. And it's another way of saying, if spirituality is used as a sort of escapism, then that spirituality is going to become a distraction. But if the spirituality is the person's like, all right, what do I have access to as a being present in a moment of worldhood? We have access to a moment. The moment has shape, content, design. And we are a geometrical position inside a moving geometrical cosmic event. So really what the mind is here to do is to notice space, notice shape, and notice how it can move all of them at once and yet be all of them. We are not just the suffering of our mind, we are its greatest freedom also. And whoever you are, imagine an earth where people were no longer trying to be advanced. Everybody just understood that it's go big or go home. This species will either perform its most advanced expression and then exit, or it will not. And I have this feeling that there is a huge poetically celestial sponsorship backing up human evolution. What do I mean by this? I mean that there seems to be an interdimensional field, intelligent field, that is monitoring human activity, and this intelligent field is watching to see how many particles moving in the field can notice they are being the field. And once you notice you're being the field, it's like that mystical moment where the person's like, wait a minute, I've been asking others about what I am, but what if I asked myself? What if I was the only one who knew the secret of where my eyes had extended from or were from? And there comes this moment when all added things to the moment, anything you have put into the moment for a second fades, right? It's like the person was about to touch truth, and right before they touched truth, they were no longer a person. And when they found truth, they realized it's dehumanized. Right? So it's like we've reached this point where we're these unknown, advanced, multidimensional beings that are noticing we're playing the game of an earthly biological body. We are like this biological system that knows that it is not just a biological system, and it has inner cinematic ability. That's really what imagination is, and this is really what knowledge is. Events are happening like a film in a world. Human beings see those events. They try to convert the actual direct experience of something into some sort of symbolic remnant of it. And then that gets passed on. And really what it is, it's a geometrical comprehension of reality, right? Knowledge is how we're using geometry to act. Knowledge is how we're using geometry to eternalize the past accurately. But what we come to find is that, okay, individual ability, then there's collective ability. Collective ability requires the collective vision of the whole system, seeing something beyond, right? When I talk about an advanced civilization, I am seeing a staircase of all the advanced types of civilizations that could exist. Just like there's a staircase to heaven, there's a staircase to the most advanced states of being an advanced civilization. And the most advanced civilization would be one that is so fast, it's updating so fast that it's faster than the speed of light, and the advanced civilization becomes invisible visually. What is invisible to one dimension could be very obvious to others. What I know is that this species deserves incredible advancement. Why else would we all be here? You know, it's like the great performance, you know, the arrival of the advanced humanity, the angels of the future, the advanced communicators and the pilots of consciousness. Rise, mankind, rise.